Good afternoon. We want to welcome you to Emmanuel Baptist Church, the Discipling Network, and the Deliberate Orthodoxy podcast.
Yeah.
Brother Paul fails to mention that when I'm not around, and so I want to make sure that that gets mentioned. Since the last time Lydia joined us, we had record numbers of views. I figured I would X Paul out and join in, and so no, I'm joking. We have some things going on around here this summer that we're super excited about. A lot of trips, a lot of different outreaches, and one of those things is our mission trip to Canada. And so what I wanted to do, Lydia is going to go ahead of us to Canada, and I'm excited about that. I don't really like it. Her mom and dad are shipping her off for a while, and so I'm excited for her. I'm excited for what God's calling her into. And we wanted to sit down with Lydia today and talk about just some things that God has done in her heart, some desires that God has given her, and some things that this mission trip is going to really allow her to see for the first time. I know you've been on mission trips, and we'll talk through some of that, but this is the first time you've kind of
By myself.
been by yourself. Yeah. And so that's kind of a big deal. I know it's a big deal for Brother Paul and Miss Christina and their family. It's a big deal for our church, and then it's a big deal for Lydia.
Yeah.
And so we're thankful for that, and we're prayerful for her. And she's going to go ahead of us and do some prep work with the church in Canada, and then we're going to come up and spend a week there with the church and do a Bible school. And so we're excited, and we just want to do some questions. Wanted to meet with Lydia and walk through some things about what God has called her to, about what she's going to do, and about the future of God's call for her life. So Lydia, let's just get into the questions, okay? All right. So just start out. I tried to stay with Lydia. You know, people that are watching this are going to know who you are, but really introduce yourself, who you are, and things like that. Tell us who you are. Tell us about your testimony, and then some of your desires for the future.
Okay. So I am Lydia Watts. I'm Brother Paul's daughter. And I am a junior in high school right now. And so
Shout out Ruston High.
Shout out Ruston High. As far as my testimony, because of my family, I have been very blessed with Christian parents who have been pouring the gospel into me since like day one.
Yeah.
Before day one, they were praying over me and stuff. And so I was saved at a really young age. I don't really remember what I was like before I was saved, because like it's just always been there and stuff. But I remember in like middle school when it kind of clicked, like, oh, I'm saved, I should be pursuing this.
Right.
I remember like having conversations with my dad, like in the car on the way home from school, being like, so what does this mean? And so I really began like pursuing a relationship with Christ, like consciously at like 13, 12-ish age. And then this past spring, last spring, that happened. I took the Perspectives course on missions, and it was just a really great experience because I was with people who were like older than me, and they had like been in the field, like grown-ups, and also like just some like my cousin, my friend. And so it was really cool to be able to see that, and through that the Lord used that experience to like call me to missions. So as far as like future desires and stuff, I feel like the Lord has called me to missions. I don't know exactly what that looks like,
Right.
obviously. And I still have to go to school. I have to go to college. I almost said tech.
Yeah.
That's scary.
You almost declared
I
right
almost
there.
said where I was going.
Yeah.
No, I have to go to college. I have to do all that stuff. I'll probably go to Bible school, seminary. Yeah. I don't know.
Not as a pastor.
Not as a pastor. I can't do that.
Missionary.
I can't do that. Yeah. And so.
Well, cool. All right. So you talk about the call to missions, Lydia. So let's talk about some mission trips that you've been on, and then kind of tell people, after you talk about what you've been on, what you've done that's kind of fueled some of these desires. Tell us what you know of right now that you're going to be doing while you're there in anticipation of us getting there, and then kind of what the thought is after we get there, what we're going to be doing.
Okay. So I have been on 2 mission trips that were like, go somewhere. And then at Mission Lab.
Right.
Our church goes to Mission Lab, which is a camp in New Orleans, and we do mission work in New Orleans, and so that was really cool. But I've been to, my first mission trip was to Honduras when I was in 5th grade, and I don't know if I really like viewed it as a mission trip at that point. But last summer I went to the Dominican Republic, and we had a medical clinic, and it was like me and my mom's job, like the people who like didn't have medical like knowledge and stuff. It was our job to like entertain the kids while we were there. And so I've always like, all the mission trips that I've like been on have been like very like kid focused.
Right.
And the Dominican Republic was last summer was like the first one where I like really got to, not like I had a leadership role, but they let me talk to the kids by myself.
Yeah.
And I presented the gospel in front of a crowd of people, which I had never done before.
Right.
And that was really scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, those experiences were really wonderful because I like got to see how God can work through his people and stuff. And so this to Canada is the first, like I'm still doing like kids ministry because I'll be helping the church. I'll be helping them like with their summer outreach before they get there, and I'll be helping them prepare for their VBS. But this is the first time that I'm going in like a, I guess like leader, like leader capacity. So yeah, and like as far like in Canada, I will be helping organize, I will be helping outreach. It'll be a lot of administration, which is new for me.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm also not 100% sure of like everything that I'm gonna do there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and I will be there. I'm leaving to go June 25th. And so I'll be there almost a month before the rest of the church comes. And when the church comes, like the Emmanuel people, we will help put on their VBS.
Yeah.
So we'll help with whatever they need. And that's part of my job, seeing like how much help they need.
Yeah.
Like what they need us to do specifically. And
So this is not in the question. So I'm going to ask you to ad-lib for a second. When we think about the providence of God and God allowing us to do things and see things, it's kind of leading us into our next question. You went to Honduras as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, you got to see who did you go with when you went?
My mom.
Your mom.
Both times.
And so you got to see your mother do missions.
Yeah.
I got to be real careful right now because I'll get emotional. Yeah, I'm trying not to.
I will too.
I swallowed for a second. All right. So you got to see your mom do missions, and you got to see what that's like. You've got to hear your dad just, celebrate, participate in missions, over and over again. Then you get to see it through your mom, and then you go to the Dominican last year, and you take a little bit more of a leadership role in a foreign type mission. We've been going to Mission Lab, and you've taken a leadership role in a domestic type mission. And so through all of those things, there's been some shaping and some molding through God's providence. And so let me ask this, Lydia. How have your parents' desires for you helped shape your desires and the calling that you feel like God's calling you into?
Okay, so I kind of touched on this earlier, but like my parents have always been pouring the gospel into me. So it's always been very clear like what they want for my life. Like they want me to follow God, and they want me to like live for Him and share the gospel freely. And so like as I've grown up, just like seeing them also embody that, because it doesn't mean anything if they just are saying it. But like watching my dad preach every Sunday, and I'm just gonna brag about my parents, like watching my mom do all of the amazing things, like when I go on these mission trips, like she is amazing with the kids, and she knows just what to say, and like watching them like live it out has showed me like how to live it out and like how to.
So let's stop.
Okay.
And not you're about to head into the last part of the question, and so I want to ask this question so that people kind of know what we're talking about here. So Lydia's mom and dad are Christians, and they do what Christians do. Now Pastor Paul, called to preach. I've learned a lot from him. He's a good pastor. But let me ask you this, Lydia. Is your father does he just conduct himself as a Christian here so that people see him as a Christian pastor, or have you seen him live his Christianity out away from here?
I've seen him out away from here.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you just viewed your mother through the lens of being a Christian here and it's something different at home? Or do you see her Christianity modeled everywhere y'all go?
Everywhere we go.
Everywhere you go, right.
As best as I can.
So I asked this question to Lydia to frame this last question. Lydia's parents are people of faith. But just because Lydia's parents are people of faith does not guarantee your faith.
Yeah.
All right? So you have gone on mission because your parents have kind of put you on that track.
Yeah.
But you spoke of this as a calling. All right? So how have you begun to see their desires for your life become your desires? How have you began to take ownership in those desires where it's not just your parents' desires for you now?
Yeah.
But God has worked a work in you, and we've talked about salvation already. But how have you seen those things become yours and you take ownership of them?
Yeah. I think part of it is just like as I've gotten older, I've like understood what they wanted.
Right.
And so like since their desires aren't just like parental desires, they're biblical.
Right, yeah.
So like I think that as I've walked in my life and I've like been reading the Bible and I've been like going to church and stuff, like I can see that their desires aren't just from like parental, like they're just like what any Christian like should be striving towards.
Yeah.
So I think that that's definitely part of it. And like I don't want to say like as I've like gained consciousness or something, but like just as I've grown up, like I can see like the importance of what they're doing and stuff. And like my parents aren't perfect, but they like they genuinely like they live their lives for the Lord, and I can see that.
Yeah.
And like I've never doubted my parents' love for me. I've never doubted my parents' love for each other or for the Lord. And like just seeing that happen, like I want that to be me.
Right.
Like I want to live the lives that they're leading, not because it's my parents leading it, but because they're like just genuinely like amazing examples of like the Christian faith.
Amen. All right, so how old are you?
17.
17. 17 years old. Mom and dad are about to put you on a plane at the end of June and send you to a different country.
Yeah.
You know, and there's fear in that, obviously. Yeah. But I say that to kind of finish this thing up. That's hard. That's hard when you love your child. To be able to do that. Okay. Sorry, I'm
okay.
Yeah. So it's hard when you love your child to be able to do that. You have to have something higher drawing you to be able to do that. And the Bible tells us to love the Lord with all our heart, all our soul, and all our strength and all our might. And knowing how much they love you.
Yeah.
To put you on a plane and to trust God with your safety.
Yeah.
You know, now they're not sending you off to the middle of a jungle somewhere. I mean, there's some protection where you are as well, but they're sending you to a different country. You know? And so in saying all of those things, I want to encourage anybody who will listen to this. Any parents, if you're planning on being a parent, the Bible tells us to train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they are older, they will not depart from that. And we know that that's predicated on the gospel impacting that child's life and that child desiring to pursue the gospel. But man, God is faithful. And look, Lydia's not the only example of this in this church. We've taken 15 or so young people to New Orleans the last couple of years to Mission Lab. We had 2 of our young ladies go to Belize last year. And we, you know, not that there's anything super spiritual about our church. Anybody can come to know Jesus. They can love Jesus, and they can train their family to love Jesus. That's one of the desires that we have here at this church is like we want to really enact what it means to love Jesus and to be open-handed and to give our lives away. And so Lydia, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Pray for Lydia as she goes. Pray for our church. Pray for Brother Paul and Miss Christina as they kind of put her on that plane and let her go. And then as we join her several weeks later, and pray for the efforts. Pray that God would be glorified ultimately, and then that people would come to know Jesus. We love you. We appreciate you. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.